let's talk about it. Something specific that we can have a conversation about, but we still have to ask, who do you got? Let's talk about production. Which album brought a sound to the table that either enabled the year and the sound and captured that moment, or just overall who had the better production on each album? Let's talk about production for a second. We're talking about, again, Herbie Lovebug, who was on fire at the time. KWAME doing production on there as well as another individual called the Invincibles. If anybody has information on those, just kind of throw that in there and let us know what they did. Regardless, those are people that took care of basically the Boy Genius album. And then you have Howie T taking up the entire bulk of production, every single song, if I'm not mistaken, on Youngest in Charge. So you have two sounds, Queens, because even Herbie is from Queens, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if the Invincibles are from, but KWAME, let's just call it the Queen sound. You got a Brooklyn sound. Let's talk production. Gentlemen, everybody in the chat room, internets, who do you got? Let me know in the comments. What are you talking about? Looking for the beat makers in the room to step up first, obviously.
I mean, I'll go first. I'm just trying to give everybody a chance. I want to give everybody a chance.
Oh, well, listen, you're supposed to take up the most time if we only got like a few minutes per round. Go for it. Take up the chunk.
I'm trying to let everybody live. You know what I mean?
Listen, at this point we have plenty of time. So you know what I'm
saying. So I'll start off before the master goes. We'll send the little kids out first. I mean, I like production wise, Howie T for me was it, and I understand the technicality behind KWAME's production and where he was looking at and how he was advancing the sound and the different things in hip hop. And you can hear everybody, and it's funny too because like I guess newer generations or people who were nowhere near connected to the 80s, anytime they hear the 80s, they hate the basic snare and kick from the Casio, that electronic 80s, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's really not the issue. It's actually, the good Rev said it before, like where they were taking the samples and chopping it. This was advanced. This was 89 that led into the explosion into 91, 92. So I think Howie T for me gets this one because he was technical, but he also kept the groove. And for me, it's always, you got to have a groove. You want the technicality, but you got to have a groove.
Right. I agree.
That he did. So I agree in the first, again, not to scare to put his vote down, putting it down for obviously, let's just call it Howie T, but we're obviously talking about Special Ed's album. Anybody else feel differently or the same?
I don't think Howie T I think Howie T was the Molly Mall. Howie T was the Molly Mall of Brooklyn.
Oh, snap. I like that. That's a cool.
That's a strong statement, Triple C.
That's a strong statement. that is a strong statement.
Very.
Yeah, I mean, at that time he was doing it. He was really.
I mean, he was. You're right, because we could easily at that point.
I said we could easily start listing artists, and it's like this one, this.
Right.
Even something that just made a small bit of noise, but like I said, he was working.
Right.
He was that guy for a minute.
Right.
So with that being said, I got 2 votes in. Ike and Trip scanning. You looking the same.
Yeah, I mean, just all right. So just to add on to what Ike was saying with everything with Howie T. Again, when we've talked about it, and I think even when Evil D was on, he kind of touched on something that lends, I think, to this era of hip hop with certain things, right? And when you're talking about like the evolution of like sampling and music and everything coming out of like that late 80s going into the 90s, everybody was just kind of stuck on doing James Brown loops, just using James Brown records, and then eventually it started to evolve. So I think if you kind of listen to it, right, Howie T. If you really listen to it, Howie T was using different drum sounds, different loops, and he's using reggae records because some of those are actually reggae records that Howie T is also using also. But then, when you go back to the Queen side, when you go back to Herbie Lovebug and KWAME, I think that sound was still connected to more of the late 80s sound because that late 80s sound was, ironically, they were using live instruments back then, right? So they were using like live bass guitars and things like that then. But I think it wasn't as evolved yet, right? Because you're coming out of, because even if you think about it, right? KWAME, Kid and Play, Salt and Pepper, that's East Elmhurst. That's that side of Queens. So it's a different musical influence if you know Queens and the music, from Queensbridge to Elmhurst to Southside. There's a little bit of difference in the history of the musicians in the different neighborhoods. Like Louis Armstrong, I believe, was also in Flushing also. So when you kind of know like the history, all those different little styles play a little bit different, intricate part into the Queen sound, right? But I think it wasn't as developed yet. I think Tribe really, to me, that's why I'm a Tribe fan, kind of helped to flush that side out. But for this conversation, Howie T, because he was on fire already with Whistle, which I didn't realize he did that record. and then he did Chub Rock, and he did a lot of other a lot of records. And again, when you're producing records and I'm gonna tie back to Evil D right now, where remember kind of what you were saying too, Jules, and like with everything back then, it was still kind of unknown with hip hop, right? So you're not paying like it's not like now, right? In 2020, we're like, okay, we're going to D&D, or we're going to Quad, or we're going to Daddy's house. You're just going to whatever studio you're gonna go to. Whoever had the cheapest rates, Sample Kings, whoever had the cheapest rates is where we're going to get the song done. We weren't concerned with SSLs and Neves and all of that stuff really back then. It's the reason why even the sound quality of the records even sound different. Because if you listen to them, they're not really that bass heavy. They're kind of mid-rangey. If you listen to both albums, they're really kind of mid-rangey. If you listen to them, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, and that kind of ties into what Evil D was saying, where you were just going wherever you could record this music to get it done and get it out. That's kind of what it was, in my opinion, listening to everything back then. So, and to tie it all up, you know, I think Howie T for this part of the battle, I think Howie T caught that sound and made a better debut for Special Ed in this case.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't tie into the album. You were talking about whole career, I think.
Overall, yeah. Howie T, yeah. I still stand by the statement.
So I'll go next. I'm going to piggyback off of what Scan said because he touched on something that I was thinking. So listening to the Special Ed album, Special Ed has that West Indian background. So it was some of the West Indian influence on his album as well, too. Right. So it was more, to me, more of an arrangement of sound because with the Special Ed album, he had I Got It Made, but then he had The Mission, and it was this, and he had Party Joints as well too. So it was more of a range of sound with Special Ed, more so than Herbie, what he did with his sound. You can't knock Herbie because he was on fire back then as well too. You know, with Salt and Pepper, with Kid and Play, and just with Kwame and with other artists.
He had a run.
He had a run. He absolutely had a run.
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely.
But I just think with Howie T, it was the sound was just more of a different array of different backgrounds within the West Indian sound, within the hip hop sound, and I would say a little bit of the house, if I'm not mistaken, as well too.
Yeah, there is a house record on that album.
That was part of that era too. Yeah.
I think he's a British-born Jamaican.
That's what the notes said. That's what the notes said.
So for me, I'm gonna go with Howie T, but you can't not leave Herbie out of that. But Howie T for this round. But Herbie's no slouch at all. So.
And Herbie's from Haiti.
Oh yeah. He's Haitian. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
He was banging this Haitian chick. I went to school with at 5 Town. She was the
the good
the good Rev got the best stories.
He's always like a 6th degree of separation in some way somehow. Whether it's a blunt or a phone number or something, it's like check it out.
I can't tell you how many times me and the good Rev been out mobbing around in Brooklyn, the city, Queens, or whatever. And you hear a story, you're like, what? And then you go somewhere and you're like, holy shit.
Like how we freshmen in college and you driving a Range Rover.
He's very particular with his food, always, ever. So it's like 3 a.m, we're trying to go to a bodega and he's like, yo, can you put the cheese on that and get the onion? And I'm like, yo, man, just it's like 3 a.m, man. Let's grab the Dutch.
You talking about the Rev?
You gotta have it just so.
You talking about the Rev?
Just so.
Yeah, oh yeah, the Rev, man, the Rev.
Oh, so wait, so I'm gonna piggyback off that. So not only will he do all that, he won't even eat the fucking sandwich that night.
You gotta save it.
That night.
You gotta save it. You gotta save it.
I chill with him mad times. We go back to his crib. He puts the shit down, opens up the fridge from some shit that he did the same thing with last night. I'm gonna warm this shit up, and I'm like,
you gotta have one on deck.
Like,
you be mad as I'll be mad as hell sometimes. Like, damn, that shit was banging.
Now, but this was last night.
Listen, we got to get some video footage of Rev doing that for the eats part of the show.
That's why you're making that brisket and that turkey spaghetti.
This girl was just yelling about that.
We gotta get everybody else's vote in the room. Like I said, even though technically it don't matter, but just to get it out in the open. Shout out to Ms. Money in the room again. Once again, shout out to you,
Miss Mo Money,
Miss Mo Money.
Right, get it right.
I'm blind. Miss Mo Money. Shout out to Project Elevated in the building as well. Shout out to him. Listen, who has to go next? Matter of fact, you're the Triple C.
I'll go next.
You went Triple C.
No, wait.
Bad Triple C. My bad.
I'll go next.
Oh, you got next.
the Special Ed album, man, just the beats that are on that album. I mean, everyone said enough, but I'm gonna say the way that he flipped the sample for the Bush, and I hope he played that after like later on. That song, I mean, that song was dope as shit to me. I in doing my research and going back and listening, I probably rewound that song probably 5 times in a row. Just like, all right, let me listen to that again, because I thought that beat, the way he did that beat was so dope, and I've never heard anyone flip it like that.
Fair enough. And that was early too, so they was early on that.
That was early.
It doesn't matter, but let's stretch this out. Pause. Good Rev. Please expand as much as you like on why. I'm assuming you're picking Howie T as well. On why you picking Howie T for this round?
I mean, I gotta go with Howie T. I love Kwame's production for other artists, but if you play the rhythm, I'm just putting my vote down for that already.
Right.
We would have eventually got there. I mean, we're gonna talk about the score at some point, but we would have eventually.
Howie T did Treat Him Right and Just the Two of Us for Chubb, and
he also did I Want to Sex You Up
for Color Me Back, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And those are like 3 of the important records to hip hop.
And a lot of relationships. And a lot of relationships.
No Brown, son.
I was just gonna say, and the breakdown scene with Shorty in New Jack City.
Right.
Your $5 ass down before I make change.
But I go with him. He's I like those beats a lot more on the Special Ed album than I did on the Kwame album. I like Kwame's production later, like after.
Yeah.
Fell into his later. I feel you.
He did.
But,
He got into groove later, yeah.
But after that, when I saw he did, I was working the Lloyd Banks record, and he did On Fire.
I think that's what put him. I think that's what put him back on the map.
Yeah,
I think so too.
Quietly, what I discovered today though is that he was producing it for a while for a lot of other big artists.
Yeah,
under name. He was going under K1 Million or something like that.
Yeah.
So he was already doing music for a bunch of people like Tweet and other people. I can't think of any other one right
now.
I don't know how Tweet hasn't made money off Twitter yet.
I mean, that's a missed opportunity at this point.
I mean, missed opportunity at this point.
Someone fumbled the bag on that one. That's really clear.
The fumbled.
Even if she worked out a quarter of a penny for every time it gets mentioned.
Right.
Just on that platform.
Right.
Yo, but I'm not gonna front that Kwame, he had a gimmick thing that I fell into the trap of rocking the polka dots.
Triple C had that dime. Triple C had that dime. Triple C had that dime. It's flat top. That's what it was.
You was rocking polka dots.
You had the polka dots.
Yeah, I had the polka
dots. I was gonna call him out on the slope, but you're saying he had a dyed slope. Is that what you're trying to say?
No,
that's not a slope. That's a Gumby.
A Gumby.
It all makes sense. This is why Trip C is ready to ride on anybody and everybody. On sight. I was the nigga wearing polka dots. Bow.
Made me change my whole style up.
Yeah. Yo, Trip, I get it. I ain't never saying nothing sideways to you, my brother. Glad you on my side.
I had the black and white, and I had the black and polka dot shirts.
But you know what? Let's talk about it.
Let's
talk about. I was just about to say it's funny because we're talking about.
Before we talk about, can we just wrap up the game real quick? Can we just wrap this up real? No. We can do this real quick because I want to expand on everything you're talking about. Let's be clear. Let's not hold back anymore. At this point, let's get if you know, I don't know if we beat any records tonight, but we decided to take on two young MCs back in the year.
We only went 2 rounds though, right?
3 rounds.
Nah, we went 3, bro.
Wow.
It was that fast, Trip.
That fast, Trip.
You guys are making me feel guilty. Listen, we're talking about 2 young, like I said, MCs that were very talented by the early age of teenage, middle age years. We're talking about 15, 16 years old, dropping their first debut albums on major labels. We're talking about Kwame, the boy genius, featuring A New Beginning's first debut project, 1989, January 31st of 1989. So it was like 89 first project, if you will, going up
first
against
quarter.
First quarter, yeah. First quarter. You know they ain't get. Going up against Brooklyn's own Special Ed. Again, another young teenager, about 17, 16 years old by the time he's dropping this project, which means he's recording this at an even younger age, and how he teaches studio, which is insane. And you got to talk about the youngest in charge coming out in May of '89, so a few months down the line from Kwame. And we talked about, Special Ed's project tonight.